Wright is really clever with lyrics. Juelz is really clever with lyrics. I think Jim right now is grown into that spot. I think Jim always rapped really good, but he had more of the gangster image or the tough guy image to where people might not have been necessarily paying attention to his lyrics, but more of his image. And now I think they're kind of respecting his lyrics as well. But
Cameron just laid out exactly why Jim Jones was always the heartbeat of Dipset, even though he was never crowned for his lyricism. See, everybody swears they know the Dipset story, the pink furs, the bandanas, the mixtape domination. But when Cam starts peeling this thing back, he uncovers something way deeper, something the industry never wanted to say out loud. Jim Jones wasn't ignored because he lacked bars. He was ignored because folks got hypnotized by the persona, the menace, the brawls, the whole warrior aesthetic. They weren't actually listening to the lyrics until way too late. Cam starts by breaking down the Dipset dynamic in a way only he can. He paints a picture of dudes on the block, arguing for hours about who really held the crown. J.R. Writer with the punchlines, Jules with the hooks and the flash. But Jim Jones, he had the one thing you can't teach: influence, style, presence. He was the guy everybody wanted to look like, according to Cam. The belt loop chain, the swagger blueprint, he set a whole wave that shaped the culture. Now, I'm about to roll this clip for y'all, but before we jump in, tap that like button, drop your thoughts in the comments.
Well, pure lyrics. J.R. Writer was really nice.
Writer's block.
J.R. Writer is a lyric. You're talking pure lyrics. The nigga who could make the best songs, Juelz. You know what I'm saying? Niggas want to be like Jim. You know what I'm saying? To where you like want to dress like him. You want to put chain on your belt loop and all that shit. You know what I'm saying? So I thought Dipset had a great dynamic because it was like, I seen this with No Limit. You know, that's what made me kind of want to create Dipset or a movement in general, because we would be on my block and niggas would be arguing about their favorite in No Limit. Like, nah, man, that nigga Mystical is better than Silk the Shocker. Like, nah, y'all bugging. This another nigga that's better than this thing. And when you have those type of arguments, you like, who gives a fuck who you like as long as they're all in the group. So I think it depends on how you look at it. When you say the best artist, you said the best lyricist. J.R. Wright is really clever with lyrics. Juelz is really clever with lyrics. I think Jim right now is grown into that spot. I think Jim always rapped really good, but he had more of the gangster image or the tough guy image to where people might not have been necessarily paying attention to his lyrics, but more of his image. And now I think they're kind of respecting his lyrics as well. But if you're talking during the height, I think if you're giving all around, even including myself, I think Juelz had everything.
And he only put out one album.
Two.
Well, wasn't one a mixtape and one was an album?
No, he put out 2 albums, but then he started doing a lot of mixtapes.
Right.
Yeah.
What, like when you think of Dipset, right? Like, how did that all come about, right? Because there have been many people trying to make groups since then, right? There was ASAP, which was big. That was probably the only other big thing that came out of Harlem. Like, was it, you were obviously popping first, right? And then did you find Juelz? And then you, in your mind, were you like, all right, I'm gonna turn this into a group? Or like, how did that all come about?
So the way it came about, I had a deal already, and I used to hang out at Jim's house, and me and Mace was like, you know, Jimmy, we could teach you how to rap, and he picked up on it quick. You know what I'm saying? He didn't start off as a rapper. He started as one of our niggas, and then he started learning the format and getting good at it. So me and Jim had a rapport because our grandmothers lived in the same building. And then Juelz, my situation wasn't really right at Entertainment, and my man kept trying to introduce me to Juelz, and he's like, yo, I got this kid that's nice, I'm like, all right, but I gotta get my shit together. And we was driving around in my car, and I fell asleep, and I woke up, and Juelz was in the back of my car. He's like, this is the kid I'm telling you about. I'm looking at my man like, yo, bro, I just told you my shit ain't right. I'm gonna get this kid shit together. I'm almost getting my shit together, cool. But he's already in the car. I'm like, go ahead and rap. And that nigga from day one was spitting it. That nigga was nice from the very, very first day I met him. And I'm like, oh, this nigga's nice. And then I didn't really have a good eye for marketing, not like that, but I brought him to the studio when we was working on SDE and asked some bitches in there, and they was like, oh, he's cute. I'm like, oh, the hoes like this nigga too. So this nigga can rap, the hoes like him, and he knew how to do songs and do hooks. You got people who know how to rap, but they don't necessarily know how to do songs, you know what I'm saying? Like, for instance, like, I'm not saying I'm not frowning upon nobody, but I think even when I was working with Vado, he started learning how to be good at hooks. He's a great rapper, one of the best lyricists, but learning how to do hooks, and he became really good at it as well. Juelz had all that shit from the very first day I met him. He was ready to go from the beginning, but he was in a group called Draft Picks, and I told him straight up, I'm like, I don't really like your man like that. If you want to come fuck with what we trying to do, come fuck with us. But he was in the deal. I said, I don't expect you to curve your nigga. He's like, let me think about it. And then I guess him and his partner had to talk, and he's like, I'm gonna come fuck with y'all. I was like, you can double back and get him, but he just can't come on this ride, pause.
Draft picks.
And then once you had Jim, who you and Mace were teaching to rap, you had Juelz, now you're in a major label deal, but learning probably the bullshit that you had been through, you had the vision early on to basically, mixtapes were popping at that point, so you were like, you're gonna keep this independent until you got to Koch?
Well, you know, we see movements aren't new. You got like, what was that shit? The Native Tongues, Tribe Called Quest, and all them other niggas. And you got Cash Money, and you got Rough Riders, and you got Murder Inc., you got Wu-Tang. It's like, it wasn't new for me to do try to do a group. Even Big L, he's trying to do Children of the Corn with everybody. You know what I'm saying? I'm on his album as well. When I'm fucking 17, 18 years old, how old I was. But the point being is, movements are new. I just was saying, when I see niggas on my block arguing about some New Orleans rappers and who was their favorite and so on and so forth, that's when I said I need to put this together. But to me, it wasn't nothing that hadn't been done already.
This right here is the moment in the conversation where you finally see why Dipset was never just a rap crew. It was a full-blown playbook for leveling up, rebranding yourself, and building something way bigger than your environment. And when you listen to Cam unpack it, hold up, something clicks. Jim Jones didn't miss early respect because he lacked talent. He missed it because the culture wasn't ready to appreciate the kind of transformation Jim was actively going through. Hip-hop loves the final product. It barely acknowledges the grind it takes to mold that product. And Jim Jones was evolving right in front of everyone in real time. What Cam said about teaching Jim the basics hits for real. Not because it makes Jim look unseasoned, but because it actually shows the opposite. It proves how much labor Jim had to invest to become the version of himself we recognize now. You can coach someone on structure, you can coach someone on delivery, but you can't program hunger. Jim Jones walked in with that hunger all on his own. That's why I don't think comparing him to artists who came out perfected is even fair. Jim Jones didn't step into the game polished. He stepped in with pure determination, and that level of drive earns a whole different type of respect. Now here's the part that grabbed me. Cam pointed out how the image overshadowed the lyrics in the early days, and honestly it did. Jim was the visual, Jim was the attitude, Jim was the force. That's what people locked onto first. But that force he carried was baked into the Dipset strategy. Whether they want to admit it or not, Dipset moved over 1 million mixtapes independently before any major push. That kind of natural takeover only works when every member speaks directly to the culture. And Jim Jones was one of the strongest bridges they had. The fact that people are only now giving Jim credit for the music says more about the listeners than it does about him. Some folks need to watch you win before they honor the journey. But when you revisit the Dipset catalog and Jim's solo run, you hear the progression, you hear the craftsmanship, you hear the confidence, you hear the pen coming alive. And that's when you realize Cam wasn't exaggerating. Jim Jones grew into that position. He earned every inch of it. And that holds weight coming from Cam, especially with the rocky past those two share. So let me ask y'all this. Do you think Jim is finally getting the respect he deserves, or is the culture still sleeping on him? And who in Dipset had the most complete package when you factor in influence, bars, and star power? Drop your answers below and don't forget to like and subscribe.